Hello everyone, today I'll be doing a solo master run with Arbalest. For my subclass, I'll be using Shade Binder. Here are the mods I'll be using this video. For my kinetic, I'll be using Arbalest with the Catalyst Genesis. Next, I'll be using the Wolf Tundra arc bow with the Stasis Linear Fusion Rifle reads Regret. For my helmet, I'll be using 10 Recovery, double Linear Fusion Ammo Finder. Gauntlets is Grenade Kickstart Overload Bow Taking Charge with 5 Recovery. Chestplate is double arc resistance with striking light and uncatchable. For the legs, I'll be using Linear Fusion Scavenger with protective light. Last, I'll be using Bomber Shield Break Charge with particle deconstruction. Alright guys, so I haven't done a Warlock solo master run yet, so I decided to just make a video about it. And you guys know, for the first Overload champion, you can actually skip him and still get Platinum. Now the biggest part I do want to talk about is using Arbalest. Arbalest now, this week, has the anti-barrier, and you can get the Catalyst by just doing strikes, gambit, crucible, etc. Also, for this week, since we are on Dawning event, you can actually pick up the snowballs and throw it at enemies. And of course, let's not forget it is double loot for this week, so you can farm Grandmaster and of course Master Nightfalls. This week is very fun because with the Dawning event, you can actually pick up snowballs. And if you fully upgrade the snowball mods, every freeze you do to clear down ads, or even just freezing barrier champions or bosses, you can get snowballs to spawn and you can just keep spamming and throwing them, and they do pretty much decent amount of damage. Now for the Arbalest, when getting the Catalyst, you get the Genesis, and we'll be talking about that a little bit more once we are dealing with a barrier champion. Now Arbalest, as I said before, I said that Arbalest was going to be the meta, and I was right. I did tell everyone about it. Arbalest is actually one of the best weapons to deal with barrier champions. You will see very soon why, but as you guys know, there are overload champions here. The bow I'm using isn't the best roll, and the linear fusion rifle I'm using is not the best roll. I'm just using these weapons since I have not used them at all in my videos. You know, it's always threaded needle, this and that. You guys know me, I get bored of using the same weapons over and over and over and over, and it gets extremely old for me. So I just want to use different weapons, even though the bow I'm using isn't the best roll, and the linear fusion rifle I'm using isn't the best roll at all. But you can still do a decent amount of damage for master version, and you can see I am spamming the power of the snowball, and when you do pick it up, you do run a little bit faster. So Arbalest is amazing, and I really can't wait to use it for GMs or for endgame activities. I did not have time to do GMs for this week since Christmas is almost here. When you do break the shield of the barrier champion using Arbalest, with the Genesis perk with the Catalyst, you can refill the magazine of your Arbalest. Even though your magazine is always going to go number 1, if you break a shield in any barrier champion, let's just say it takes around 4 shots to take down the barrier champion. Let's just say that. Or you could say that you forgot to reload your Arbalest and you only got 2 shots or a couple shots. Well, when you break the shield, then it resets and refills the magazine. You also can get 1 mag of the Arbalest. You get around 6 instead of 5. I'll be making a video about Arbalest later. I don't think I have time for this week. Honestly, a lot of things. I'm very busy. I really want to make a video about Arbalest, but you know, time, upload speed is 6. You guys know that you have to go all the way from the right side to do DPS, dealing with the champions, and of course the fallen ads. Now people say that Arbalest is... the catalyst is bad. And you will see that Arbalest is amazing, is one of the best, especially when having the catalyst with Genesis. It just makes dealing with barrier champions much more easier. Another thing about Arbalest is you can one-shot shields, so that's another amazing perk it can do. Now before we clear down anything, it's best to clear down all the fallens that are approaching to you, then deal with a couple of ads. Now I forgot to take down the snipers, but you can actually just throw snowballs and then pick them up. I mean, like I said, this week is dawning week, so if there are snowballs, then take advantage of it, honestly. Because this event will be over, and you might as well just have fun spamming snowballs at champions, overload champions, etc. We will be dealing with 3 waves. And there will be overload champions that will spawn for each wave. And of course a barrier champion. Because we're not really going for grandmaster mode, you don't have to be too careful unless you are underleveled, under 25 level, then I will be very cautious dealing with the overload champions. Now if you are not under 25, then it isn't really a big issue. Where snipers can't really two-shot you, especially if you are 1350 power level. Now the turret that I'm using can also make snowballs, and you can also freeze the overload champion. Now I don't recommend to do this on GM version. The turret isn't really efficient to deal with overload champions on Master, well, Grandmaster version. Master version, it's okay, but for Grandmaster, I would say no. It doesn't really help so much unless you're on red health and you need to gather some heavy, you want to freeze the overload champion to get it, then alright, you can go for that. So there are many waves of ads, and mainly these vandals from the left side can give you trouble because they can snipe from far distance. Now if you're using the turret, you can just freeze enemies, get the snowballs for dawning event only, by the way. This only works for dawning event of the snowballs. So like I said, I do recommend to enjoy the snowballs of spamming it on enemies, champions, etc. because the event will be over, and I'm not really sure if they're gonna have this again. This is probably the first time they ever had snowballs where you could just spam it over and over, because I remember the first time of having dawning, you can only pick up the snowball and then you have like a cooldown around 8 seconds. You can't really throw it too much, but definitely upgraded, boosted up the snowballs, and you can just have fun and throw it at enemies. And it makes this solo run really fun for this week, and it's double loot, so that's the cherry on top. Now, like I said, the bow I'm using isn't the best roll, but even though I don't have the best weapons, I still made the solo run work. It still worked out for me. You know, I mean, it really doesn't matter too much. I mean, if I wanted to, I can go blue gear. I can go all blue gear for Master, Grandmaster, to be honest. As I said here, there will be many waves of ads, 2 wizards, and with the Arbalest, you can break the shield of wizards. For the Arbalest is when you break the shield, you get the disruption break. which is 50% damage, but for a couple seconds. And with the particle deconstruction, makes life easier. Now another thing you notice is Arbalest also breaks the barrier champions, but not only that, the Arbalest can one-shot barrier champions. Even in far distance, the Arbalest can one-shot, well, one shield shot the barrier champions from close range and from far distance. And it does make life easier, and it probably can do that for a GM version as well. So having both linear fusion rifle builds for this loadout can be very refreshing, but like I said, the linear fusion I have isn't the best. And it worked out pretty great for this run. Now I could have done a under 40-minute run, but unfortunately you guys know the last two remaining overload champions are RNG, and every time I do the run they always have a mind of its own, and it's always those overload champions that give me trouble throughout this entire Nightfall. It's not even a tank anymore or the Brigs or anything. It's just the two remaining from the boss fight I always have trouble. Even in grandmaster version, even in master version, they just don't like to cooperate with me. Now as you guys know, the turret does help for you to spawn snowballs and of course freeze enemies. You can pull back, pop a healing drift, and then just take them down with a bow, with a linear, anything you desire. It's definitely not so bad, especially if there was snowballs around this area. I probably would be spamming it right about now, but unfortunately they didn't put that in this specific little area. So yeah, I'm just spamming the bow and just spamming turret. So if on red health when using the stack, you could just have your healing riff over again. Now always remember, when using the stack, always have 100% recovery when using the stack, so it can be beneficial, in other words, useful. If you don't have recovery tier 10, then the stack wouldn't be as good as of now, so highly recommend to put tier 10 recovery for your Warlock. Now I'll be going for wave 2. Wave 2 is just one more overload champion that will walk through around this area. You can actually pop your healing drift and then take down the vandals, the fallen snipers. And you can see here I was just trying to take down these very annoying overload champions, but just remember you have to fight with the console aim assist, which can be really annoying to deal with. And I always get annoyed. I mean, if you're on PC, then this doesn't really matter of what I'm talking about, but if you're on Xbox or on PlayStation, then this is a big issue, and this is another reason why I don't like, you know, doing solo Nightfall runs, etc. at times, because especially Proving Ground, I would say I mostly have trouble with console aim assist on Proving Grounds more than anything. And I always get console aim assist on Proving Grounds all the time. Over here you can fight over it a bit, but Proving Grounds is when it's not gonna really go your way. Because when trying to use an auto rifle, it's the worst possible weapon to use on console, okay? Let's just be really honest. It's awful. Weapons are limited. Right? I'm not gonna say Blitz, actually, this, no, guys. Auto rifles is just so bad on console. Period, end of story. You know, I just wish, I'd rather just use a pulse rifle or bow anti-barrier than use an auto rifle. That's what I would rather do than use an auto rifle. Or I'd rather use Aggro Scepter to deal with barrier champions than use an auto rifle. Once we clear down all the ads, you can pick up the snowball just to run a little faster. Either that or the camera is making you run faster. I'm not really entirely sure. So you could throw your snowball, you can freeze enemies. This only works if you fully upgrade the snowball mods from Eve. Now when dealing with the Overload Champion, you can do 2 Arbalest shots. And once you stung the Overload Champion, you can just switch to your heavy and then just do DPS, or you can just use your finisher. It all depends what you want to do. Now this is the level where it's going to be your best friend or things are not going to go your way. Now there are tank Brigs, a couple barrier champions, and a lot of Overload champions. I highly dislike this level because mainly you have to deal with DPS from long range, especially dealing with the walker. Now first things first, you must take down the barrier champion up over here. And if you are using the staff, you could just spam your healing rift once the barrier champion is down and just take down the fallen ads, which they do melt you pretty greatly. Even with double arc resistance, they are a bit dangerous to deal with. Now just remember that there are snipers on top of the right side, so always remember to take down the snipers if you are going with this method. Or you could just throw a snowball at them, which is good enough, to be honest. And this area is the one that takes the longest. Even for GMs, you will waste around 20 minutes of your life. Let's just put a range of that, 10 to 20 minutes depending. And there's a lot of snipers, a lot of Overload champions, and the snipers can 2-shot you or sometimes 1-shot you on GM version. Now as you guys know, I do like to take down the Overload champion from far distance. And the one thing I don't like about this area is sometimes if you don't clear down all the snipers, they will snipe you while you're trying to do DPS at the Overload champion. So when you do take down the Overload champion, then you can browse around and then make the walker and the Brig spawn. Now dealing with these ads, just make sure you clear all of them down, browse around, and then now we can deal with the Brigs and the walker. Now over here I was experimenting because I wanted to actually take down the barrier champion from this distance using Arbalest. Unfortunately it didn't work out too well because the barrier champion, the barrier servitor, wasn't cooperating with me. But it was nice to find out that you can deal with the barrier champion from far distance. But unfortunately the servitor, like I said, wasn't cooperating, and it made me waste a lot of ammo. So you can see here I was trying to see if I can take down this barrier champion, but it didn't work out. So because I wasted 3 minutes of my life trying to deal with this barrier champion, I'm gonna do a mini time skip for this. Alright, so after spending 3 minutes of my life wasting ammo trying to take down the barrier champion from far distance, but it didn't work out on my first go, now I'll be dealing with a walker and 2 Brigs. So for the dawning event, you can actually throw snowballs to deal with the Brigs. If it's not the dawning event, you will have to go back away from the right window and just spam bow. And you guys know that the Brigs are very tanky, even in GMs, even in Master, they're very annoying to deal with. Now I was trying to see if I can make this Brig move, and it's RNG. Sometimes he just stays in one direction, sometimes he pushes towards you, sometimes he backs away, sometimes he just walks around the map and doesn't want to walk towards you or do anything. Now, a thing about standing that Pacific platform where the snowballs is, the brick from the left side can shoot void at you, so you have to be very careful. And sometimes of RNG, by the way, sometimes a walker can one-shot you from the spot where you're standing. Sometimes. It's very rare, but he can one-shot you if you're standing this direction. I had times where it did one-shot me around this area I was, and this was when it wasn't the dawn event with the snowballs. This was during GMs where it just kept shooting and shooting over and over. Now, like I said, you can use snowballs because they also freeze and they can cancel the void attack, the arc attack, and cancel when it tries to do the one shot when it's flying in the air. So if it does fly in the air, it's going to be frozen by the snowball and it's going to be floating down to the ground. And this is something that you would want, especially for GM. You can just freeze the enemy and they can cancel it. So you can throw the snowball at the Brigs as much as you can. And yes, I am missing my snowball at the Brigs. My bad for that. You know, I'm not perfect. But you can see that it makes the Brig a big joke and laughable, because usually these Brigs can melt you, especially for GM, but then you could just throw a snowball and they're completely harmless. Now over here it can be a little tricky because there's really no snowballs around this area, but you can make snowballs. So over here I just decided to just freeze the Brig and make the stasis turret to make snowballs so I can deal with them. Alright, so once I have enough snowballs, I just spam it as much as I can, and you can make the enemy freeze with the turret or with the snowballs. You can have all these snowballs to spawn when the enemy is frozen and unfroze, and it just makes it super fun to deal with these Brigs. And like I said, this only works on Dawning Week, so I highly recommend to try out your fire team. Doesn't have to be solo, to be honest. You could just mess around with fire team as well. So once we take down the two Brigs, now to deal with the walker. Now if I had a stronger linear for my heavy with Vulpal Weapon triple tap, then this will make my life easier dealing with the Brig. Well, with the walker. So another thing that really annoyed me was the barrier champion was trying to immune the walker, and it can be super annoying. There is also a ship, but since we are on master version, it is completely harmless, so I decided to just keep doing DPS even though it's going to shoot me from this area. When you do see a ship, they will spawn more ads and of course another overload champion, but mainly you will want to focus on taking down a walker so you can roam around the map and deal with the remaining overload champions and a couple of ads. Now you can just use Arbalest, but if you run out of ammo, then you can just pick up heavy or any special that you see in the ground. Now I saw one brick from this little roof and I decided to go back. So for some reason the snowballs, it looks like it gives you more ability to run faster, or maybe it's just a camera, I'm not entirely sure. I do want this walker to be down as fast as I can. Or as much as I can, since Devil Lair Champion kind of messed up my time. So once we dealt with the main points of the walker and the 2 Brigs, then you can actually roam around the map, but be aware of the snipers. I didn't take down snipers and invisible fallens where they can try to melee you. So if using any stasis subclass, Titan, Hunter, if you freeze enemies, you can spawn the snowballs. Now, just like I said before, the snowball perk is only during the dawning event. It will be gone soon, but like I said, if you are planning to farm for Master, then take advantage of the snowballs and spam it on Overload champions, barrier champions. And it's actually pretty fun of using snowballs to deal with the enemies, to be honest. And then you can just keep freezing enemies, etc, etc. Now, I was trying to deal with the Overload champion, but then these snipers were kinda in the way. So I should have just walked all the way from the left side. But I want to take down this champion, but then all these ads seem to try to melee me. And then these snipers were getting in my way. And then with the console aim assist, remember that, guys? Sometimes my linear, my bow wants to aim at the fallen and it could be annoying. Once everything seems to be alright, now I can deal with the couple of ads and remaining of the champions. There will be another Overload champion that will spawn when you are closer to the entrance or closer to the exit. But you guys know it'd be best to take down the barrier champion. Now this area where I am is dangerous. I wouldn't recommend to stand here too much. But because we're on Master and we're on Warlock, we have the power to Healing Rift. Remember that? So we could just spam Healing Rift with the stag and deal with the barrier champion. Now I was just trying to take down the barrier champion as much as I can, then use my super and clear down as much ads as I can. So you can see there's just so many snipers, it is ridiculous. And then I saw a snowball. I didn't know. Like I said, this was my first run. I had no idea there was a snowball around this area. I wish I knew, because I could have just go up in this area instead of dealing with the Overload champion in the middle of the map. So because there were snowballs over here, which I didn't know, by the way, I decided to just spam it. Pop a Healing Rift, and then just throw turrets as much as I can, and just keep spamming it until I see Overload champion that is pushing, then I do DPS. So I did saw Overload champion right in the middle in front of me, and you could do DPS, use your linear, Arbalest, any ammo you want to deal. So like I said, Arbalest is amazing, so highly recommend to use it. And the perk for the catalyst is amazing. And like I said, I did say that Arbalest was going to be the meta for champions, and I was right. Arbalest is the meta for the champions. I knew the prediction all along, but a lot of players say that the catalyst for the Arbalest is really bad and poorly, the perk, which is wrong 100%, because this is very amazing for Grandmaster, for Master, Nightfall, or endgame content. A lot of people don't realize that the Genesis just makes the Arbalest more powerful. It's a bit disappointing because I had, you know, people, they refuse me to use Arbalest or I get kicked out from LFG, you know. So once you cleared out all the ads, then you can go and actually just deal with the remaining Overload champions. So I would decide to walk over here and then deal with the remaining ads and Fallens, and this is gonna be really fun, isn't it? There will be the remaining Overload champions, and the one thing that really annoys me is the remaining last two at the boss fight. So once you do clear down all the ads, then you can deal with the Overload champions. So just be very careful where they can spam arc tracking at you. You can use Arbalest to take down the champion. Make sure you have enough heavy so you can do DPS at the boss, so you can go right to the next phase. The bow I'm using isn't the best roll, but even though I still made this run work, it still worked out pretty well. So once I deal with the last champion, I decided to do DPS at the boss. So I use the stasis linear and just do as much DPS as I can, because there will be a lot of ads that will try to melee you, especially this particular Fallen ad, which can ruin everyone's run on GMs because it can melee you and it's not fun. Not a fun experience, to be honest. I have had times where that particular Fallen can one-shot you on GMs. I would say 1 to 2 shot you. Now I'm going to be dealing with baby servitors, the ones we see in dungeons where we abuse them from the fallen shields from the new dungeon. Well, unfortunately we can't really abuse them, we have to destroy them, right? So you can use the Arbalest to break the shield and then get above 50% disruption break for a couple of seconds to deal with them. Seriously, Arbalest is the meta. And I'm surprised nobody's talking about it so much. I'm quite surprised. I think I'm the only one who knows Arbalest was going to be the meta, and I already knew it all along. And like I said, I will make a video about Arbalest. I just don't have time right now. Now over here, I decided to clear down a couple of ads, and then later I realized that the boss was moving. I wasn't paying attention too much, so bear with me guys. This was my first attempt, so I totally forgot that the boss likes to move around left and right, and you will have to do DPS the boss when he's moving around. You know. At the same time, I was trying to get some ammo because later I'm going to use my super, and I'm definitely going to pick up ammo while having my super active. So I saw the boss and I decided to try to do DPS, but then he moved, unfortunately. I was too late. You know, this is what happens when you don't DPS the boss really fast. He starts moving around in awkward places, and it's really hard to predict of where he's gonna be. So because he's not here, unfortunately, I have to go upstairs, and hopefully he'll spawn at the area where will be a good angle to do DPS or critical headshots. He spawned here, but if he is close to you, I highly recommend not to get close to him, because you can see that he can shoot through the window, and it's not a fun experience, especially for a GM version. He can melt you, and like I said, you have to be very careful with the boss when he's close to the window. If he's not close to the window, then it's okay, you know. You don't really have to be too cautious, but if he is close to the window, then you definitely have to be super cautious with him. Well, with the boss. Not really sure if it's a boy or girl, the boss, but you know. I was trying to do DPS at the boss, but then he moved, and finally I did enough DPS from what it looks like, and then the boss, he or she, started to spawn baby, adorable, cute, lovable servitors. Now this one can be a bit annoying. It'd be best to take down one of the baby servitors, but I was just too focused on dealing with the overload champions, since they're the ones that are going to give me a lot of headaches if I don't take them down quickly. And that's the thing I hate about this phase, where the overload champions have a mind of their own, and they are extremely annoying. You know, I really hate these overload champions to my passion. And when you don't have explosive payload bow, then this can be a problem. And this is when things are a bit irritating, where you're trying to do DPS, but unfortunately the overload champion does not want to cooperate. And you can see there that the overload champion teleported. And this is why I don't like these two remaining overload champions. So you did saw there that they do teleport, so you know, I'm not going cuckoo, I'm not going crazy, right? They actually are buggy in this boss fight. They can even teleport in a building and melee you or shoot you. There are times where they did melee me, or they just shoot me in GM and I just die. And I just really don't like these overload champions. They're very RNG. Even in master version, they're so annoying to deal with. And I know someone's gonna say, but Blitz, you can go inside the tunnel. Yeah, I did that. But guess what? They disappear. They just walk around somewhere where I cannot really do DPS to them. I have to wait for them to spawn in front of me through the tunnel. And that's really annoying. And like I said, overload champions are RNG. They're going to be staggered and they're going to go up the stairs, and you can't really go up the stairs, especially on a GM. There's no way you can go upstairs. It'll be dangerous. I wish you the best of luck, but there'll be baby servitors shooting at you and the boss if you go upstairs of where the overload champion's standing. It wouldn't be a good idea, to be honest, going upstairs and standing there. The boss is looking at you like, hey, what's up, boss? And then you die back to orbit for GM version. So this is just very annoying to deal with, especially dealing with the remaining overload champions. Now I was trying to do DPS, but unfortunately overload champion didn't feel like it. And then this is when things get a little bit annoyed, where I need to look for the overload champion. I had to go through the tunnel, and I thought that maybe this champion is gonna be there. I did saw the overload champion, and it was shooting outside of the tunnel. But unfortunately, it didn't really work out too well because, well, the overload champion wasn't there. Instead, I saw, you know, Shanks, you know, here and there, and that's just a bit upsetting, you know, because if this was a GM, then, you know, I would have get melee from down and be on red health, you know, and then someone could say, what about the well for Warlock? Well, the thing about using the well, especially for GM, it just gives you a false of security, to be honest. I mean, I'm just being honest, everyone. I know someone would disagree with me. When using the well, it just sometimes gives you the false of security. I mean, that's just my opinion. People would disagree with me, but that's my opinion on the well for Warlock, for GMs. Alright? For Master, it doesn't really matter. Unless you're under 25 level, then it does matter, and I would say the well will give you the false security. So, you can see, overload champion teleported. Left and right. Left and right. I just despise these two remaining champions. They always behave like this no matter what I do. they will always be a headache to deal with. I can't really be outside of the tunnel because the baby servitor and the boss is shooting, so it's just very annoying, very irritating, and I really hate the RNG of dealing with these upload champions. Now once we do defeat all the champions, now we can actually do DPS. Now I decided to just try something new. I never really done this before, but it did work out okay. I decided to do DPS on this angle. Might as well, because the boss always spawns from back way, you can see here. And why not? You know, this is a master version, so I decided to just give it a go. This seemed to work out okay, but then for a GM it would be kind of complicated because you'll have Fallen's melee. I wouldn't say it's the safest, to be honest. Master, yes. Grandmaster, mixed feelings. Wouldn't recommend for Grandmaster version. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.